Well, it's an honor to have you here. This is McCook's Mr. Bill, and you're on Donzie 52 channel. My wife got a nice deer again. She has killed 32 deer in her lifetime. She's hunted 36 times, so that's a pretty good average. She and her 30-06 are more than fair at taking deer, and she is, yes, a better shot than I am. Be that as it may, you're here for some stories of deer hunting. Now, I got a few. The very first time she went deer hunting, I'd quit. I hunted deer once and I didn't like it. And so she said, I'd like to try. And I said, there you go. And so she got a license, and I went with her the first time. And I had my 8-power binoculars. Now I put them up, and I spotted a buck out there after we'd walked some canyons, and spotted a buck about 200 yards off. Nice little 4-point buck. And so I said, there you go. And I said, shoot him in the heart. She put her old 30-06 Remington pump with a 6-power scope up and pulled the trigger. Well, that old deer started shaking his head. And he was trembling a little bit, you could see, and then he started walking off like nothing had really happened, or you couldn't tell any damage to him. And I said, you better shoot him again. So she pumped in another round and shot it, and down the deer went. No question, down he went. Well, we walked up to some 200 yards up there to him, and then I realized, well, that deer only had one antler. And then I said, I was sure in my binoculars that I was seeing 2 antlers. And I happened to glance off to the side, and there was an antler laying there. And it had been freshly shot off his head. And I said, you shot his antler off. I thought I told you to shoot him in the heart. And of course I told that story way too many times, and so my wife got a little irritated. So she goes by herself now. And of course she got smart. Instead of walking the canyons, as we get old, that ain't gonna work so good anymore. And so she got her a tree stand, and she gets up in her tree stand. About the furthest she ever has to shoot is about 150 yards. Most of them are 100-yard shots or less. And that little 30-06 is an excellent shooting weapon for my wife. Some of the people make fun of her and say, oh, you need a lighter weight gun. That's beat you up too much where you're a woman. And she always replies back to them. She says, I only need one shot. And I'll finish it with this story. She was hunting deer here last year, and up in the tree stand, and a young fawn come walking by. He'd gotten rid of his spots, but he must have been a real late hatch fawn. But no doe with him. So something had happened to her more than likely. Oh, he was old enough, he'd probably survived the winter. But he had a coyote on his trail, and that old coyote was doing his very best to try to kill that young fawn. And that old coyote, and he was trying to kick at him and fight back, but he wasn't winning real well. And she said, I know, even if I got rid of that coyote, there'd be other coyotes down the road that sooner or later will probably get him. But she said, I felt so sorry for that deer, that little fawn, bleating away, begging for help from somebody, something. And she decided that she was going to play God that day. And so she put the old scope on the old coyote and touched off and killed the coyote. And she said, how many people go deer hunting and save a deer's life? But that's my wife, and she's a wonderful person. And of course she's just one of 50,000 deer hunters in Nebraska. 50,000 deer hunters in Nebraska. Now, I've always said that anytime China, their giant army, wants to march through here, or the federal government dressed like ninja warriors want to march through here, they better say pretty please before they try that. Because I assure you, 50,000 deer hunters would not be the bunch you'd want to take on. This is McCook's Mr. Bill. Rate this film.
Off.